Hi brothers and sisters, and anybody else watching. It's been a little while. I'm just going to add to the grace video that I've done previously, because I don't know, it's getting profound, and that tension, that tearing apart that's happening in the body, with people believing they can work their way to heaven or salvation, and it's just blatantly unscriptural, and it doesn't make any kind of sense. Although I can see why people get tied up into that, because it's hard to conceive that something so great could be free and so easy. But Christ tells us that his burden is light and his yoke is easy. Vice versa. But it has to be simple, it has to be free. And perhaps to explain what really happens when we believe, what occurs. Our sin and righteousness is transferred. When you believe and you come under the blood of Christ, your sin is nailed to the cross, and you're washed in the blood of the Lamb. What occurs there is that transfer. So when the Father looks at me covered in the blood of the Lamb, he sees his Son. I don't deserve that, but that's what he sees. But when he looks at his Son on the cross, he sees me and all of my filth. For all of my filth, all of my life, Christ paid once and for all, and all does mean all. It's not, 50% of my sin, or 50% of my life, or 75%, or even 99%, and I've got to try and make up that little bit. He paid for all. And everybody. That all is all. It's everybody. Now, not everybody's going to accept it and come in, of course. But they can, because he's paid. He didn't pay to the moment I became a Christian. He didn't, and I've heard people say that, like it's a game, the Holy Ghost gives you so many chances, and I'm guessing these people aren't parents, or they think that they're greater in their parenting than God is, because how many chances do you give your child? How many chances? And then he's suddenly not your child. It's preposterous, it's ridiculous. You may not be a very good child, you may not be very close in relationship, but you're still a child once you are. And when you're washed, all of it is on the cross, all of it. And some, like to say, well, your past sins are forgiven you for sure, but your future sins aren't. But if we took the example of somebody and their life's full of sin, and then on their deathbed they confess, so all their sins forgiven them. But the guy who came in, let's say 20, and lived another 50 years, but made mistakes in that time, not nearly as many sins as he would have committed, and certainly before, when he wouldn't have been bothered, now he's sorry that he's made those sins, because he's not perfect. He's not perfect until that the work is complete in us. God's going to damn that person for coming in early and making mistakes, But the guy whose life was full of sin, he'll forgive as long as he forgives on his deathbed. In which case, providing death doesn't come that quickly or the rapture, then what's the point of coming to Christ until your deathbed? You know? You're going to be damned for everything afterwards. So in as much as that, tomorrow is the day of your salvation, but the scriptures tells us quite clearly that today is the day of your salvation. And yes, you're going to make mistakes. Paul said that, you know, whenever he wants to do good, darkness is there. It's not easy, but we're not perfect. So all of that has to be forgiven. And he paid for all my life, not just a little bit. And like I say, when God looks at me, he doesn't see me and my filth, he sees his son, because I'm covered in the blood. And sadly, when he does recognize me, that's his son on the cross. For that, for all. And that's what that transition is. And we're not written in and scrubbed out of the Lamb's Book of Life on a daily basis. You know, or you become a Christian, you're written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Great. Oh no, you did something wrong, you scrubbed out. Oh, he said sorry. That's just ridiculous. It's preposterous on the face of it. Some of it is a lack of faith, and some of it is arrogance that you are profound enough and good enough to earn your salvation. And oh man, I can't express what a blasphemy that is. The good that we do is for rewards. We'll be rewarded for all of that and the sacrifices and the things we've lost and so on and so forth. But the rewards, that's not the salvation. And I think it was Chuck Missler that said, if you can lose your salvation, then God has a new name, and that's Butterfingers, because we're held by God and Christ. Nobody can pluck us from that. So please, it's grace alone. Grace. God, the Son, paid, and that system was set up for us because God knew the predicament we'd be in and our own fallibility, and we always will be until he perfects that work in us that he has begun. And it's an ongoing thing all of the time. I've seen some preachers that are in a position now where they had a past, a sinful past, party and so on, and they're condemning those that are in that now. But they were in that then, and they had the means, if you like, to get out. God gave them the time. And although they're young and still foolish perhaps, it's not, God knows that with time they too could come to this understanding. So whereas Christ is died to forgive the world and save the world, there are these professing Christians that are out not only condemning the world and condemning everybody in it, but believers too. And obviously that's the work of Satan. Satan, the accuser of the brethren, because we're human, we're going to make mistakes. But that work will be perfected in us. Now that's not to say, and then there's cheap shots like, license to sin. And it's not a license to sin at all. That's, a wicked, categorization. It's like if you're pro-life, saying that you hate women, or you're pro-gun, that you're a murderer. It's that preposterous an argument. But we're aware that we do, and when we do, we're sorry. And as good trees, new trees, producing good fruit, then we would be producing good fruit. But not that you have to try like the bad fruit, the bad tree, the evil tree. They don't have to try. The hatred and the viciousness and the condemnation, that comes naturally to them. It pours out of them. Whereas the good tree, the loving and forgiveness comes out of them, because and it's going to do if you realise, if you even got a clue. Most people don't, but if you've got a clue of the size of the bell that was paid for you, you're not going to run and condemn a brother or sister. And we have parables saying that, the servant that was forgiven a great debt, and then because he pleaded with his master, and then went out and slammed a fellow servant in prison for a small amount, and ended up getting damned himself because of that, because he didn't show the forgiveness. So in as much as that, I guess it's, do you become a new creature in Christ? Are you now a good tree? Because by the fruits shall you know them. And I see, there's grace pastors out there who won't accept any glory or acknowledgement for their works, but their lives full of good works. And then the Pharisees, who demand works, don't do nearly the works, And this is what I call like a clipboard Christian. They've got a list of the things that they shouldn't do, and a list of the things that they should do, but it's their list, what they've chosen, that they're prepared to do and not to do. And I see that as, somebody's in a relationship with Christ, and they're, sat at his feet and in that relationship, not doing, just in a relationship, like I said before about Mary and Martha, and to be a Mary. And then you've got the clipboard Christians going around, and they've ticked off, and then, they'll come to Christ and say, there, I've done, look what I didn't do and what I did do. And I'll say, oh, very good, but I don't know you. You've been busy running around doing, you didn't get in relationship with me. So it's better to be in relationship with him, so he knows you, and do nothing other than that relationship, and that's prayer and the word and so on, than to be running around and doing. So, yeah, don't be a clipboard Christian. Be in relationship, and you'll find that more good works come out of that. That's what I seem to see anyway. The Pharisees, they're busy condemning, and they may do the odd good thing, but it seems that the grace preachers are actually doing, and constantly, like my brother Tim Anderson, he's all grace, and God bless Tim Anderson. But he does more works. His life's full of the good works because of grace, not because of he's earning it, but because he's following his heart. He's led to do good things because such good things have been done to him. And then other pastors talking works, they're too busy on, looking good, just looking good, and presenting something. I have heard of, while I'm here, just in case anybody's fallen for this, it's what's called a truism. It sounds true and it sounds you know, and on a mundane level it very well could be, but not on a spiritual level. And that is, somebody said, if I've got a boat and you're in the sea and, you know, surrounded by sharks, and I get you out the sea and now you're in the boat, you're saved. If you get back in the sea again, are you still saved? You know, trying to mock the once saved, always saved thing. But it's preposterous. You know, it's just a preposterous... It sounds, you know, on the face of it, but does it really add up? And of course it doesn't, you know. That's a physical thing, because one, I'm told I can, you know, tread on a lion's tail. I can, you know, I'm not worried about snakes or scorpions, so why would I be worried about sharks anyway? And that's only the flesh. And they're assuming that they and their boat is the same as Christ and his salvation. Wow, that's some boat you think you've got there. So it's preposterous. And if you get onto that boat and they're like, do that or you're going to hell, oh, don't do that or you're going to hell, you won't want to be back in the war with the sharks, are you? And that only lasts while the hour or whatever you're on the boat until you're on shore, and then you're out of the sea anyway, so you're saved as surely could be once you're there anyway. So it's preposterous, it's a truism, it's a nonsense, and it might work on the mundane for your flesh. You know, yeah, you're out of the boat and then you're back in the water, but spiritually, nah, doesn't add up, and it doesn't equate to Christ, and it doesn't equate to salvation, because Christ's boat's that great, you wouldn't want to get back in the water on Christ's boat. You're with him, you're going to want to stay with him and learn and share and have that thing with him. So, you know, don't be fooled by any of that nonsense. And these are the same people. There was, I don't know the group, but is it the Southern Baptist Convention? And these have a go at that because it's all Masonically run, and they'll fund these, you know, these big preachers with book deals and make the millions, you know, like they all do, even in politics, get all the money from the book deals. But they've created this cult of I, you know, like they've turned the Bible not about Christ, but about you know, it's all about me and my greatness. And they'll confess that, but then when it comes to salvation, then suddenly it's not all about Christ, it is all about you, which is a nonsense. You can't pay the bill, you know. It's vast, and you can't pay it. That's why Christ paid it once and for all. And you need to understand what all is, and all is all. He paid for everyone, though not everyone will accept it. But he paid for all my life. He didn't just pay for half of it, or 3/4, or 99%, whatever. And my sin, all of it. So that's what happens. The Father looks at me, and I'm covered in the blood of Christ, and he sees his Son. And then when he looks at Christ, that's where he sees me and all my filth, but it's nailed to the cross, so it's paid for, it's down, it's done. And I'm liberated in that. And that is what grace is. Not of works, lest anyone should boast. And you must understand that. Nobody's going to stand in the throne room of God and say they got themselves there. We'll all be on our knees giving glory to God because he got us there. And then on top of that, he rewards us. And more than that, he saved us from the hell that we deserved. And then gives us eternity, immortal bodies, incorruptible. And then rewards us if we happen to do any good. I mean, it's a phenomenal thing, and when you truly get that, because those that are weak in faith will only eat herbs, and those that are strong can eat the meat. And this is a situation where, but that can be part of the growth. You know, God knows that. You know, He knows that given, you know, you might happen to think you've got to earn it now yourself, and in 6 months' time you'll understand what grace is. But if in 2 years' time you're still holding on to works and blah, then you're not growing, you're stuck in that Pharisee thing. And how can you move forward? How can you have a relationship in that? So that's really just don't be a clipboard Christian. Be a Mary, not a Martha. It's all down to Christ, all of it. That is what grace is. And you do good on top. Brilliant. But you can't lose your salvation. And check somebody out like, you know, far more respected than I am, Chuck Missler, and see what Chuck Missler's got to say on salvation. Once saved, always saved. Can you lose your salvation? And I recommend that. Yeah, that's all. Just another one. Grace is it. Yeah. God bless you. And yeah, may the Lord not tarry, and see you in the class soon. God bless.